right. Well, welcome to the first and inaugural podcast of Living with Parkinson's, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. My name is Bryce Perry. So listen, going live on TikTok right now, as many people have asked me, how do you live with Parkinson's disease? Is it good and bad? How do you do this? And, the reality is I was diagnosed with Parkinson's quite a while ago, about 10, 11 years ago. And I'm asked all the time about it. What does it feel like? How does it go? Are you you're too young to have Parkinson's? It's an old person's disease. It's something that nobody in their 40s, 30s, 50s should have to live with. So, you know what? It's about time I start talking about it and get into it. So, hey, Jennifer, how you doing? Good to see you. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to be recording the first episode in the new podcast. So the podcast go out to hopefully help people with Parkinson's, people dealing with Parkinson's, family members, friends, and being able to deal with a diagnosis or quite honestly, any type of chronic illness. And how do you still live a good life? How do you be happy? How do you flow? How do you go? And how's it going to go? So if you're just joining, make sure you like this video, like the podcast, share it with your friends, your family, and everybody that might see. And I'm going to get into this, and it's going to be hopefully pretty exciting. Hopefully encourages you, hopefully inspires you, and hopefully you will get something from this, because it's all about me motivating and inspiring. If I can live my best life with Parkinson's disease, what's your excuse? Why can't you live your best life? And life is full of challenges, and some of us are dealt different hands. And I kind of believe that everybody has something. So this is the thing I deal with. If you don't know what Parkinson's disease is, the definition of Parkinson's disease is it's a progressive neurological, I can never say that right, neurological problem, right? It's chronic, it's progressive. There is no cure for Parkinson's, and it gets worse. It progressively gets worse. So I'm going to tell you a bit of my story, kind of where I am, where I've come from, what I deal with on a daily basis. The podcast is actually called Living with Parkinson's, but the good, the bad, and the ugly. And hopefully we can have some laughs and fun, and kind of tell you some stuff I go through and what I deal with, and hopefully encourage you, inspires you. So again, share it, like it. Appreciate everybody who follows us across all social medias. We're on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Going to be coming out on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts, and it's always at Doing Life Today. So thanks for the likes, thanks for the follows. I appreciate you all, love you all. And so this is just a little bit about me. It's my story, where I came from, what I've done, where I've gone. We have 100,000 followers on social media, and for some older dude, I think that's pretty good. So anyway, let's get into this a little bit. So you're going to vicariously join along with me. I will try to answer questions if I can. If I can, it's live, right? So I'll do my very, very, very best. But I appreciate you. Hold on to the journey. It's going to be a little bit fun, a little bit crazy, a little wild. And, I'll tell you some crazy stories and some of the stuff I get into, and how it can be absolutely insane. So, all right, so here we go. So this podcast is all about to inspire, equip, and empower people to live their best life and live it to the fullest, regardless of a diagnosis of chronic illness, regardless of any pitfalls that you might say. So mine is Parkinson's disease. So here's my story. So it's kind of relaxing. It's a Sunday afternoon. I kind of feel good about this. So, all right, well, let's get into it. So anyway, currently I am, believe it or not, I am 52 years old. So when I was in my 40s, so I was about 40 years old, and I was sitting on the couch, and I noticed this little, like my right pinky started to kind of twinge and started kind of tremoring, shaking. Tremoring is a word that we use in the Parkinson's community, but I didn't know what tremoring meant. But I was just sitting there normally, and my fingers started kind of shaking, and I thought, man, that's bizarre. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I must have had too much coffee. I must have, maybe I'm tired. I haven't slept well, and too much coffee, caffeine's flowing, and it's making me shake, right? And so I kind of like dismissed it. So, okay, big deal. Maybe it's just my nerves. I'm stressed out. I was going through a separation at the time, and So I just thought I was stressed. I was nervous, whatever. It didn't matter what it was, just a little twitch in my fingers. So, but as time went on, as the days turned into weeks, the weeks turned into months, and I was still twitching. And the crazy thing was, like, whenever I was doing something, I could like literally like pick up a cup of coffee, or I could cook, or I could, mow the ground, mow the lawn or whatever. And I wasn't shaking. I wasn't trembling. I wasn't trembling. Then I wasn't shaking. But the minute I just sit down and relax, then I start feeling like my pinky would start to shake. And then progressively after like a couple months, then sort of my whole hand was sort of shaking as it went. And I get again, I'm like, what the heck, what is this? So I thought, what, maybe I should just go to the doctor and get this checked out. I felt fine. I felt good. I felt not bad. At the time I was 40 years old. So, I was in the peak. I had a career. I was a motivational speaker. I was traveling across the United States, speaking to crowds and, fairly, good number of crowds. And, this was just sort of an inconvenience. Like, again, what in the world is going on? Felt great otherwise. So anyway, I went to the doctor one day. And so I was, again, 40 years old, went to the doctor, and I said, I got this thing. It's like my finger's shaking. I'm not sure why it's doing it or what it's doing. But anyway, we'll just see what it is. So I went to the doctor, and he was like, well, that's really weird, and I had a grandmother. My grandmother actually passed away on my 40th birthday, and she had Parkinson's disease. So I kind of knew what Parkinson's was. I knew who Michael J. Fox was. Michael J. Fox from Family Ties and Back to the Future movies. And I saw this guy, and he was a Canadian. I'm a Canadian, so I was like, wow, cool. And he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. I think he was like 30 years old, and a younger guy, but that was the extent I knew about Parkinson's, right? So, but when I knew my grandmother twitched and had tremors and shook. So, but again, she was in her 60s and 70s and 80s when she had it, and here I am at 40. I'm like, oh, there's no way that's Parkinson's. And Michael J. Fox's stuff, as was just sort of, an anomaly at the time, is what I kind of thought in my head. But anyway, I went to the doctor and I said, I'm kind of shaky. I got this tremor, and he goes, oh, that's really strange. Maybe you have some like nerve damage or something. So we'll send you for some tests. So I went to start going through these battery of tests. So I showed up at the hospital, and they would, they did a blood test first and all this kind of thing. So I took blood tests, and then went back to the doctor. No, okay, it's not this. So let's go and send you for MRI. So I went for this MRI, and they did a brain scan, and they looked at my brain, and they said, no, the brain looks normal. At least the doctor's report, or whatever they call it, looked normal. I mean, if you talk to any of my friends and family, they probably say I'm not normal. But anyway, the MRI came back normal. So they go, okay, well, let's send you for more tests. And at this time, still just kind of this shaking in my right hand is what was going on at the time. So anyway, so I go back to I go in for this test. It was like this crazy, I call it like a shock test. And I don't know if you've ever had anything like this, but I'll tell you what, it was probably the worst thing that I could ever imagine possible that it could go through. And I'm a man, so I can't imagine having a child, but I'm sure that maybe it's not as bad as giving birth. But I went into this room, and they hooked all these things to me. They hooked them on my elbows, my knees, and my kneecaps, and under my arms and on my back. And they were like little prongs and stuff. And and if you ever had an EKG test, like an EKG, just to do your like heart monitor, they would put them kind of around your heart. But anyway, so I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, and I'm lying there, and the guy says, okay, you ready? And I'm like, yeah. And all of a sudden I hear bzzzt, and I'm like, what was that? And it was like they were shooting shocks into me in all different areas of my body. So into my wrist, into my elbow. And then, if you ever hit your funny bone so hard, like you just want to like, you just feel like you're gonna puke or something, like your stomach goes all wheezy. Well, I've got these electrodes hooked to my elbows, and they're like, okay, let's hit the right elbow. And I'm like, ah, my God, it's like I smashed my funny bone. It was just insane behind my kneecaps, and they're firing shocks into me. And you might call me wimpy. I don't like doctors, but I'm a tough. I thought was a tough guy, but I mean, I literally like screaming down the hall, like in this hospital, going like, this absolutely sucks. So I went through all the tests, and I guess they were checking for carpal tunnel and all this other kind of things. And so I went back to the doctor, and they said, guess what? You'll never believe it. It was fine. Your test came back fine. What the hell? Well, okay, so why am I shaking, man? So, okay, well, you know what? Now we're going to send you to a neurologist. Let's check this out. Okay, fine. So I go to a neurologist, and my first visit. So now this has been going on. I got to put this in context. So when I started getting the tremor in my hand, again, just randomly getting this tremor in my hand. Now we're probably into like, I don't know, 6 months into kind of still shaking, not sure what's going on. So getting to see a neurologist. So I go to see this neurologist, and I walk in. He's like, "What's going on?" And I said, "Well, I got this shaking." He says, "Well, what do you think it is?" And I'm like, "I don't know. That's why I'm here, man. Like, what, you tell me what it is." Anyway, so we did all this stuff, and he said, "Well, do you have any thoughts?" And I'm like, "Okay, well, I might as well just be honest." And I'm like, "Well, my grandmother had Parkinson's disease, and I saw her tremor, and maybe it's that." And he's kind of started laughing, and he's like he said, "You're way too young to have Parkinson's disease." He said, Michael J. Fox is anomaly. It's an anomaly, right? Like he's younger, but that's not normal. Like normal, it's just an old person's disease, and I can tell you right now, definitely that's not what you have. And I'm like, okay, great. Like I'm excited. He goes, sorry to burst your bubble and burst my bubble. What the hell? Do you think I want Parkinson's disease? No, thanks. No, thanks. And you know what? Thank you for the likes and all that stuff. That's amazing. Thank you. I appreciate you all. And if you want to share this, that'd be cool. Share it and like it and whatever. Smash that like button. What do they say? I'm not really know. But anyway, so I go, well, what is this? So I go to the neurologist. Well, what is it then? What could it be? And he says, I don't know. And I'm like, well, why? Okay. So what do I do? And he goes, well, it'll just go away. Just maybe it'll just disappear. You go, just relax. I'm like, oh my God. So, okay, fine. So, I kind of left there feeling like kind of crazy. And literally what he said was, he said, your grandmother died of Parkinson's, or didn't die of Parkinson's, but had Parkinson's for like 20 years. And so this is all in your head. She passed away and now you think you've got it. And I'm like, in my head. So I kind of left there thinking, am I nuts? I must be crazy. I must be insane. I'm thinking I have Parkinson's. It's making my fingers shake. And I don't know. So I was kind of deflated. I went home, and days went on and weeks went on, and I'm still kind of, my right pinky and my right hand start shaking. Then about 3 to 4 weeks later, guess what? My left hand started to tremor. So now I've got right hand and left hand kind of tremoring. I'm like, this is really effed up. Like, I don't know what the hell this is. But I was too kind of embarrassed to go back to the doctor because I've already tried. I went and got all these tests, I had MRIs and blood tests and shock treatment. Like, what else are they going to do? And they just said I was crazy in my head and to even think I could have Parkinson's. But but no one could tell me what it was, which was so frustrating. Have you ever been there? You've been there in life when something's wrong, and you're kind of, you don't know how to explain it, but something's wrong, and yet no one will believe you, and no one wants to, like, they think you're just kind of crazy. Well, that's what I was going through, and again, a lot of people think I'm crazy to begin with, but this was crazy in a different way. So then, I woke up one morning, and no, sorry. I went to bed at night one night. So this is about a year and a half in now. I've been tremoring for a year and a half, and everybody's telling me that it's like nothing and not to worry about it, and it's going to pass. And who knows what it is? Like, I mean, who knows? But just deal with it. So, no problem. I'll deal with it. So, anyway, I'm going to bed at night, and all of a sudden, my toes. Okay, so again, I still got the tremors in both right and left hands, but then my toes just started kind of like just seizing on me, like my toes, my foot went like they just seized down, and I couldn't open them up, and they were like bent over, and I couldn't open my toes, and I'm like, okay, whatever, what's going on here? And I went to get up in the morning, so I fell asleep. I went to get up in the morning, and I could barely get out of bed. I felt like I was 90 years old. So again, now I'm about 41 years old. And I literally got out of bed and I was like hunched over like a little old man, kind of just like shuffling through my room and shuffling towards things. And I'm like, what in the hell? My toes are curled up. My right hand's shaking. My left hand's tremoring. And my toes are curled up. And I'm like, oh my God, there is something majorly wrong here. And I felt stiff, like stiff as a board. And some people ask me, like, how stiff do you get with Parkinson's? Like, is it a stiffness? Like, what's the worst thing that can happen? And to be honest with you, most people think the worst thing that Parkinson's can do to somebody is the shaking and the tremoring. And I'll tell you what, I'll take the shaking and tremoring all day long over being stiff. It's the stiffest you're like a board. Okay. I liken it to this, and I'm taking some of my water and I'm liking it to this. If you've ever seen The Wizard of Oz, and I'm sure most of you have seen The Wizard of Oz. Actually, hit like if you've seen The Wizard of Oz. That's a cool show. Anyway, if you remember The Wizard of Oz, there was the Tin Man, right? So the Tin Man, if you remember when you first saw the Tin Man on The Wizard of Oz, and he was like just like stuck, like stuck. And I think it was Dorothy. Is it Dorothy? Dorothy had to come and put oil on him, and as she oiled the Tin Man, he kind of got like kind of unstuck and kind of started moving a little bit and kind of unstuck and kind of moving a little bit. And then eventually he got, he could move. He could move. He started kind of moving a bit faster and a bit better and a bit faster and a bit better. And then he was okay. Well, that's what Parkinson's is like. Every single morning when you wake up in the morning, you feel like the Tin Man. You're stiff as a board. You cannot move. I literally have to take my medication and wait about 30 minutes to finally kind of get it to move. And I'm like, okay. And then as I get in that groove, it gets moving, it gets moving, it gets moving. And I'll segue here to say this. If you, again, what Parkinson's disease is, it actually, it removes the cells that produce dopamine in your brain, and dopamine is like the oil to your body. It's what gets you moving. It's what kind of greases your muscles, greases your body. And when you get diagnosed with Parkinson's, you've already lost 80% of the cells that produce dopamine. Okay. So so typically you are, less than 20% of normal. And the worse it gets, the stiffer you get. The worse it gets, the stiffer you get. So anyway, now I'm like, okay, I think no matter how silly this is going to feel, I am going to have to go back to the doctor and find out what's going on. I'm going to put my glasses on here and see what's saying. All right. Well, welcome. But look, I got Newfoundland, Canada. And thank you for following. Thank you for following. And yeah, I follow up and follow in. And I've been away for a little bit, but I'm coming back and coming back hard and strong as we got podcasts launching and different things. There'll be lots of videos, lots of sharing coming up. So please, 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 follow if you're not following. But anyway, let me get back into what I'm saying. So anyway, I figured I got to go back to the doctor. All right. I'm just going to have to go back to the doctor because, again, I'm nuts. I'm 42 years old. What the hell am I going to do? So I go back to my doctor and I'm like, listen, I need to go see a neurologist again. And he said, well, I've already, I referred you to the neurologist. They didn't find anything. I'm like, well, then there's something really messed up here because I can't move and all this kind of stuff. La di da di da. Long story short, it's a long story long. I tell long stories, but long story long, I went to a neurologist who specializes in movement disorders. I literally walked into his office, and I'm going to say within 5 minutes tops, he diagnosed me with Parkinson's disease. And I'm like, well, how did you do that? I mean, all these neurologists, they made me feel silly. They made me feel crazy. They made me feel like I was out of my mind. And he said to me, he said, have you ever seen yourself walk? And I'm like, well, see myself walk. I don't know. Like, I don't know if you're listening or watching wherever, whatever social media you're on right now. Have you ever watched yourself walk? I hadn't. I don't. I've never really thought about it. So I'm like, nah, no, I don't know. I've never watched myself walk. And he said, well, just walk and see. And I started walking. I realized my right arm wasn't swinging when I walked. It was just my left arm was swinging. I'm like, that is so weird. My right arm was almost like dead, like just laying up at its side. And I'm like, that's insane. And then we went through some of the other things I was dealing with, the stiffness, the tremors, the waking up, all that kind of stuff. And he said, you have Parkinson's disease. And I'm like, holy crap. I'm 42 years old at this time. So 2 years I've been waiting to find out what the hell's wrong with me. And all of a sudden he just tells me in like a minute, like in 5 minutes. It was such a weird feeling because I don't know if you've ever been diagnosed with something or you've ever, been at the doctors and they've given you this bad news. And I mean, I'm not alone. I mean, there's been many people diagnosed with cancer and Parkinson's and everything else. And hey, Newfoundland, how you doing? And you know what? Here's the thing. In that moment, I was relieved. I was so relieved because for 2 years I've been trying to find out what's wrong with me. Why am I stiff? Why am I shaking? Why are my toes curling up? Why am I feeling tired? What's going on with me? And all of a sudden, um, I got told what it was. You have Parkinson's disease, and I'm like, phew. Thank God I have Parkinson's disease. Thank God I know what it is. Thank God I know what to do now. Thank God I know what it is. Well, you know what? That lasted for about a good, 5 minutes till I got out of his office. I got to my car. I sat in my car, and all of a sudden, reality hit. Holy shit! I have Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's disease. Oh my God! what the heck does that mean? At 42 years old, so I've got a career now. I ran about an $80 million business for a Fortune 500 company. Had a family of 3 kids, and all of a sudden the thoughts start going through my head: Am I going to see my kids graduate? Am I going to see my kids get married? Am I going to die? Am I going to be in a home? Am I not going to be? When can I not walk anymore? When can I not move on anymore? And this is what I'll be vulnerable and honest with you right now. So one of the things with Parkinson's disease, it also has a lot of cognitive issues, and it slows you down. It makes your brain not think well. Your memory recall is not great. And I was a professional speaker. I traveled around and spoke to people, and all of a sudden I'm like, now I'm not going to be able to talk right. Now I'm going to slur. Now I'm not going to have any power behind my voice. I won't be able to emote. I'm going to get a masked face and not be able to smile. How in the world am I going to do what I need to do? And how many times do you know that the thing that you love to do is the thing that gets attacked? So needless to say, at 42 years old, I went into kind of a depression. I went kind of a bad depression because I had no idea what was going to happen to me. And honestly, at the time, the doctor told me I had 5 good years left. So I'm 42 years old, and I was told I had 5 good years left. Now, imagine living with an expiry date. Like, there's 2 things I know about life, right? Like, life is hard and then you die, right? But like that's the destination is dying. But here I'm 42 and I'm told I got 5 good years left. 5 good years at 42. So by the time I'm 47, what? I'm done. I'm a vegetable. I'm going to be in a home. I won't be able to look after myself. What's going to happen to me? How can this be? How can this happen? And again, this isn't just about me. And I'm not saying this I don't want pity parties. I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me because I'm doing great. But I'm doing this because I want everybody to realize that we come through things, right? We're told things happen. Thank you for the likes. I appreciate that so much. You have no idea. But anyway, I went into a depression. I got deep down in hard depression for about 5 years. So I kind of gave up. I'm like, I'm the things I thought I was going to do when I'm in my 50s and 60s and travel. I always said I was going to have kids young so that when I was still young, I could travel and enjoy my retirement and enjoy life and travel and do things. And now I'm told, like, you're not going to be able to move. You won't be able to walk. You won't be able to talk. Anyway, let's get on to the good stuff, right? Let's go on to the good stuff. So it took me 5 years to get off the couch and say, and here I was, this motivational speaker, teaching people and coaching people that live their best life despite any obstacles, despite what you go through, live your best life. And here I'm lying on the couch, depressed, down, can't get up, don't know what to do, right? Been diagnosed with this chronic illness that is progressive. It's just going to get worse day by day by day. And then what? So, it took me about 5 years to get off. And then I realized, I'm like, what? I'm a fraud. I'm such a fraud. I've been telling people and teaching people and coaching people and speaking to thousands of people, in events and in conferences and telling them that, against all odds, do it, seize the day, live your life and live your dreams and be happy. And, no matter what's going on, joy and gratitude. And here I am laying there, not being able to get off the couch. And what a hypocrite I am. So I made a decision that day, and really what happened was when the neurologist told me at 42 that I had 5 good years left, how would you react to that? I'm just curious, like, if you want to throw it in the comments or send me a DM. If you were in your 40s or whatever age you're at, if you were told you had 5 good years left, how would you deal with that? Would you be excited? Would you be happy? Would you want to or would you just like, holy crap, it's done. I'm done. I'm over. What am I going to do? So, let me know in the comments. Let me know in a DM, how would you react to that? How would you react to the news that you had 5 years to go and then you weren't going to be able to do anything? All right. So I didn't react well, but guess what I did? 5 years came and went. 5 years, I hit the 5 years. I'm laying on the couch and I'm like, wait a minute, I can still walk. I can still talk. I can still do things. I can still enjoy myself. I can still smile. I can still smell. I can still move around. And when I say smell, that's another thing with Parkinson's. You lose the sense of smell. Apparently, I am 12 years into my diagnosis and I can still smell. So it's pretty cool. But I went, the doctor was wrong. So I've wasted 5 years depressed, down, beat up, and not being able to be motivated. I couldn't even motivate myself. I couldn't get up, couldn't do anything. I mean, I went to work every day. I paid the bills. I had a family to support, but I was not happy, and I had no hope of a future, no hope of anything that was going to happen. So you know what? I carried on. I moved on, and I realized that, you know what, if I got through this first 5 years, I'll get through the next 5 years, no problem, no big deal. So I pulled up my socks, if that's what you want to call it, pulled my socks, and decided I'm just going to go for it, and I'm going to live my best life regardless of a diagnosis. And on my social media, and I'll be honest with you, it's in the last 6 months or maybe a year, I've slowed down a bit. I haven't posted as much as I could. And one of the things with Parkinson's disease is it takes your voice, it takes your power, it takes your voice away. And I literally was forgetting what to say when I wanted what I wanted to say. I'd lose words. I was stuttering. I was speaking slowly. I could barely, I was speaking quietly and slowly. And so again, because I want you to live your best life and do no matter what, I said, well, what do I need to do? So I actually have been in speech therapy. And speech therapy when you're in your 40s and 50s is crazy, because you feel like you're like 2 years old or in grade 5, because you're reading things over and over again. And like things like I have to repeat like 15 times a day or 30 times a day, like good night, hello, how are you, you know what do you want for dinner? I don't know what I want for dinner, and I have to repeat these things over and over again. And I am not a singer. I always wanted to be a rock star. I always wanted to sing and be a rock star, but I cannot sing worth a lick. But then you have to sit there and you have to do these it's like as loud as you can, like as loud as you can for as long as you can. And anyway, so I took my first speech therapy not lesson, I don't know what you call them, appointment. I went to my first speech therapy appointment. I felt ridiculous, and I was like, "This is ridiculous. This is not going to work. How is repeating these sayings, good night, hello, good morning, 15 times a day loudly, and doing this? Well, how is that going to make me remember things? How is that going to make me speak better? How is it going to make me understandable? How am I going to continue to do what I love to do, which is help people, which is produce videos and content and everything else, and podcasts, to be able to encourage and inspire people? How is this going to help me?" And you know what? And here's a testament. So my first week when I took speech therapy for my Parkinson's disease, I could do this for 4 seconds. That was my record, was 4 seconds. By week three, I could do the for 30 seconds. So I gained back like 10 times, almost an 8 times multiple of my ahs and my breath and my voice, and so my confidence started coming back. So if you're watching this on TikTok or wherever, whatever social media you're on, I just want to let you know I'm coming back hard and strong, because I kind of let my disease kind of get me, but I've worked on myself and got back to a good place. So hopefully I'm speaking clearly, hopefully you understand me, hopefully my speech therapy is working, and I'm remembering words as I'm being able to now free flow and talk. So if you can understand me and I'm speaking clearly, give me a like, and that way I know it or love it or like it, or whatever buttons you push. I don't really know what they are, but that way I know that, hey, you know what, you can hear me and you can understand what I'm saying today. But regardless, so again, so here I am, 47 years old, 5 years into a diagnosis of Parkinson's disease, stiff as a board, cannot move. And, one of the questions that Scott, thank you for that. I appreciate that. One of the questions I got, it's like, do you take medication? Oh, heck yeah, do I take medication? My life with Parkinson's, which is atypical of anybody with Parkinson's, I live my life in a 3 hour gap. I live my life by 3 hours. So every 3 hours, I take medication every 3 hours to enable me to not shake, and to not shake as much, and to not be as stiff, and to just to live, really to live is really what it is. So I take multiples of 3 to 5 pills every 3 hours. I take them for the rest of my life. And as my life progresses and years go on, I'll take more and more and more. But regardless, it's, believe me, taking a little bit of medication. It's a Band-Aid. It's not a cure, but it's a Band-Aid, and it makes me feel better. And And someone asked not that long ago, could we see what you look like without your medication? And I'm going to tell you, no, because it's just not worth it. When in Parkinson's disease, you have a thing called on and off. So on means I'm on my medication, I'm feeling okay, I'm feeling better than normal. Off means I'm not on my medication and I am shaking like a leaf and I am not in a good place. So the medication is an amazing and wonderful thing. But some of the stuff they deal with, like with Parkinson's disease, is again, it's that every 3 hour gap. I have alarms that go off on my phone every 3 hours that remind me that I have to take my medication. And if I'm of a good person, good boy, I'm not in meetings and doing things, then I'll take it. I'll take it, and I do it, and I take it. So I take upwards of, I think, about 35 to 40 pills per day. And again, so today I'm 52. So I've been had Parkinson's now, or diagnosed with Parkinson's for like 10 years. And I've had it for 12 years. And I'm doing fantastic and I'm doing really well and I feel great. And, if you're familiar with Michael J. Fox, and you'll see him on television interviews, and there's a great movie coming out, a brand new, like kind of a biography on him and talking about Parkinson's. He moves a lot, he's shaking and he's moving a lot, and that's a side effect of the levodopa or Simonet, as some if the United States it's called, that's the brand name, but it's levodopa and Simonet, and the side effect of that is it makes you sway, it makes you move, it makes you go, it makes you do things. And again, I am 12 years in, I've been taking Simonet and levodopa now for 10 years, and I do sway now and then, but not a lot. So again, 5 years in. So someone asked what happened after 5 years. Well, after the doctor told me that I had 5 good years left and I hit that 5 years. Well, I went back in for an appointment and he said, "Man, you're doing really well." And I've done great, and I'm feel okay. And which is great. And he said, "Okay, well, you know what, then let's go. You got 5 good years left." And I'm like, huh, "What? You told me that 5 years ago I had 5 good years left." Well, you got 5 good years now. I guess we've delayed it enough. It's the progression isn't as fast, but it's going to come and it's going to hit you, and you're going to have to do what you do. Well, you know what? Another 5 years has come and gone, and I'm still here, and I'm still doing things, and I'm still moving and grooving, and I'm still able to work, and I'm still able to provide for my family. And well, my kids are grown now, so that's cool. But I can be in a relationship. I can be a normal human being. I have limitations. I'm not. There's a lot of things I can't do that I could do before Parkinson's and after Parkinson's. I'm not as strong as I once was. I have to pace myself. I have to ensure that I'm taking my medication. I got to get rest. I got to get sleep, which is an oxymoron. And if anybody knows anybody diagnosed with Parkinson's or has Parkinson's, when they say get lots of rest and lots of sleep, it's an oxymoron. You can smash a like on that button, because one of the things that Parkinson's is it, your sleep is done. Like there's nights that you just don't sleep. So it's kind of wild and crazy. But again, that's just me. And I know, those listening or watching, I know you have things too. And I'm not by far the worst off that I know. And I'm not the best off I know. But, you're getting dealt this hand of cards, and that's what came to me. You have one life. You have one life, right? That's what we're given. This is one life. And you get dealt a hand of cards, and then it comes up to you, and it's up to you to what you're going to do with this life and what you've been dealt with, right? I took 5 years and I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to ignore it. I went through this whole grief cycle. You go through grief and doubt and fear and anger and why me? A lot of why me's. Why me? Why me? What did I do to deserve this? Why do I have to deal with this? And but all of us, all of you're going to get dealt something, in life. If you haven't already, you're going to deal with it. Life is what I call. There's a lot of speed bumps. There's a lot of speed bumps. And I call them speed bumps. They're not barricades, right? Because you can break through anything you want. But life comes with a lot of speed bumps and a lot of things that will come against you. And life is hard. Life is hard, but it's all up to you how you choose how you want to live, right? On TikTok, I know a lot of relationship videos and going through things. And I can't tell you how many people I've coached and counseled and talked to, and who've gone through a breakup. Like, this is the end of my life, the end of the world. This life is never going to be the same. Life is never going to be, better. And you know what? they went through it, and you come through it, and you're going to go through things, but it's all depends on your attitude towards it and how you want to deal with it. And if I can encourage anybody, no matter what you're going through in life, um, you know, the faster you want to deal with something, the faster you take it head on, the faster you take the appropriate measures to do what's right for you, the faster you will start changing your life, the faster you will get over something. So no matter what you're going through, again, let's just key on relationships, going through a relationship, and you're lying in bed, you're depressed because someone broke up with you, or you're having this hard time in your relationship, or you've lost somebody. And it's good to grieve, and it's good to feel, but you grieve it, you go through it, you feel it, you know what you need to do differently next time. And then you get on, and you get on with life, because I'll tell you this right now, the only thing, like, we're not guaranteed tomorrow, are we? I heard someone say the other day, and it was pretty poignant, and they said, I'll get to that tomorrow. And someone said, well, who said? And they, what do you mean, who said? Well, who said? I'll get to it tomorrow. Like, who said that you have tomorrow? We're not guaranteed. The only thing I know is right now, if you're listening, wherever you're listening or watching this from, right now, is you're guaranteed this minute. You're here right now with me, and we're just having a chat, and you're listening to me tell my sad story. And it's not a sad story; it's a happy story, because I'm in a good place, and I'm okay, and I'm dealing with it. But we're not guaranteed tomorrow. So the more time we sit in, beating ourselves up, or the more time we sit down and dwelling on what this has given me, and what I've got, the less time you have to live it, right? And I want to live my life. And that's why, my company's called Doing Life Today. It's not doing life tomorrow. It's not doing life eventually. It's not doing life when you retire. It's doing life today. It's choosing today to do the things that are going to make you happy, to do the things that are going to give you some joy, to do the things that are going to improve your life, move your life, get the things you want to get. So don't put off today what you can do tomorrow, or don't put off till tomorrow what you can do today. That saying? Well, that's doing life today. So I wasted 5 years. I wasted 5 years being depressed and down, and having this disease, and having this chronic illness, and woe is me. And when I pulled myself up, I didn't have better news. I still had it. I didn't not have it. There's no cure for Parkinson's. I went back to the doctor, and he didn't say, "Oh, great, now you're going to be good for the rest of your life." He said, "Okay, you've got 5 more years." So I had that same choice to make. I went at the doctor, and he says to me in that moment, "You've got 5 good years left." That's the second time I heard that. Well, let me tell you this. I've heard it 3 times now, because I've had Parkinson's for like 12 years. So I'm on my third 5 good years left. And I realized that it was my choice to whether to live life to the fullest, live today, be happy, be excited, to do things that are going to make me happy. It's amazing how, and you've heard people say all the time too, live like there's no tomorrow, or dance like there's no, dance in the rain, or live like there's no tomorrow. And the reality is, could you imagine if we really did that? Could you imagine if you did that, if you really lived like there was no tomorrow? And I don't mean being crazy and going out and doing wild stuff, and, throwing caution to the wind and quitting your job, and, going crazy. I just mean living life to the fullest, taking every opportunity, not wasting your time with, things that you might not be able to deal with, things that you can't deal with. I mean, literally, taking a bite out of life, taking it today, and taking risks, and taking challenges. And, let me back up about 2 years ago. So I again, with this disease, and I was managing I was managing 3 provinces, 3 states, wherever you're listening. It's like 3 provinces, 3 states, Western Canada. Had about 325 employees, and running this big organization, and, doing well. But I realized that I wasn't doing what I love to do. Now, I was making money for people, and whatnot, but I wasn't really doing what I love to do. What I love to do is help people. What I love to do is see people live their dreams. What I love to do is coach them. What I love to do is speak and talk and encourage and inspire as many people as I can, as often as I can. And so I took my own advice, and I left. I just walked in one day and quit my 6-figure Uber job. I just walked out and said, "That's enough. I'm done. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to live my life." Now, I don't encourage you right now to run out and quit your job and go crazy. But I realized I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. I wasn't doing the things that were fulfilling me and making me happy. And I wanted to be happy. I want to be happy. I want to be joyful as much as I can. And again, it's not a false reality. It's not to mean like I said, life's hard. Things happen. Things don't happen. Things, it's just not always great. But you can make it great. You can make yourself great. You can be feeling good through the bad. You can be that person that when all hell's breaking loose and and whatever's happening, whether in your career and your life and everything's going crazy, but yet you still seem calm. And I'm not saying that inside we're not calm, but you can be that person if you choose to be that person. I'm not saying you can choose to not ever go through something, but you can choose to be able to deal with it and go through it quickly and learn from it and then move on and be happy. So I live my life again like there is no tomorrow. I try to live my life. I know I'm not perfect. I'm not mistake free, but I try my best to live my life as if there is no tomorrow. So when an opportunity comes my way, whether I think that I can do it or not, or whether I think I might be embarrassed to try, or I'm just going to try it. What the heck? I'm going to go for it and see what happens down the road. I'm going to step out and just be that person because what do I have to lose? I'm going to be embarrassed. Oh, well, I was embarrassed. It's funny. I read Michael J. Fox said in one of his books, he said, he was working, I think he was at Spin City or one of those episodes, and everybody was arguing about something and then someone complained about something and he said, I'm going to say something. And he was worried he was going to be embarrassed by what he was going to say, or it's going to be called out. There's this comment saying, well, what's the matter if I'm embarrassed? I have Parkinson's disease. What's worse than that? So I can take a little embarrassment. And that's how I started to live my life. I realized I was in a marriage that was not a happy place. I was in a job that was not a happy place for me. So I started saying, I'm not going to live for anybody else anymore. I'm not living to make other people happy anymore. I'm not living for my spouse to be happy anymore. And I need to start living so that I'm happy, right? Despite my challenges, despite what's happening, despite the economy, despite how expensive groceries are, despite the weather, I need to live life for me. And you need to start living life for you. And if you're not, you need to start. You need to start making decisions where you're not worried about what someone else is going to think. You're only worried about how is this going to be better for me? How is this going to improve my life? How is this going to make me happy today? How is this going to be better for me? And you'll start realizing that most of us make our decisions and our happiness is based on other people's happiness and based on other things. And you want to make other people happy? You want to make your spouse happy. You want to make your partner happy. You want to make your friends happy. You want to make your kids happy. Then you get happy, because the happier you are, the happier they're going to be, and they're going to see that it's going to transform them. And you start to take the focus off of other things and start putting on you and doing the things that are going to make you rise up and do great things, and start living life as if you cannot predict tomorrow. And I'm telling you, take it from me. When I was 40 years old, I thought I was invincible, man. I was riding high. I was living in Florida. I just built a 4,300 square foot home with a pool and a waterfall. And in the pool, I thought I had everything. Man, I was flying high, traveling across the country, speaking to crowds of people, meeting new people, doing things, helping people. I was invincible. Nothing could go wrong. Nothing could happen to me. And then in an instant, boom, my hand starts to shake. And in an instant, a couple years later, you're told the words, you have Parkinson's. It's an incurable disease. You're going to have this. It's going to get worse. Every day is going to be worse. And you know what? Is it worse? Yeah. You know what? It is. I mean, like literally now, 12 years later. And the thing about this, I told you, I live my life in 3-hour spaces, right? So every 3 hours I need to take medication just to move and to talk normal and to walk normal and to not shake everywhere and not move around a lot. And, and to hopefully not be as stiff as I can be. So every 3 hours. So when I go to bed at night, let's just pretend, let's say I went to bed at 10 o'clock at night and I woke up at 7 in the morning. So if I'm taking my medication every 3 hours, well, now I just went 9 hours without medication. So when I wake up in the morning, it's like, if you've, I don't know if you've ever seen a 90-year-old man or a 110-year-old man get up in the morning. Maybe not, right? I haven't, but I feel like it, and I don't know what it feels like to be 110 and trying to walk, but that's what it feels like in the morning. I'm just a stiff person. I'm hunched over. I'm walking, and I'll tell you something funny. So, um, when your brain, when you're okay, so again, this is weird stuff, but when you walk, what's happening is your brain's actually telling your feet how to move. They want, well, one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other, one foot in the other. Even though we don't think about it, right? Breathing, your brain is telling your lungs to breathe. It's telling you to breathe. You don't even realize you're doing that. With Parkinson's disease, your brain and your muscles, your body parts, they don't work, man. They don't communicate well. So I can be two things. Number one, I can wake up in the morning and not be able to move. I'll walk around like a hunched over old man, like I'm like 100 years old. And it takes about 30 minutes for my pills to kick in and to feel semi-normal. So I walk around and I can't move. I can barely smile. I can't talk right. I talk really kind of messed up. Or if I wake up in the morning and I got to I don't know what is the first thing some people do in the morning? Go to the restroom. Um, I I'm like a pinball in a pinball machine. I get out of bed and I'm like flying and banging into walls, banging into this wall, banging to that wall, bang over here, bang over there, bang over there, and you can't stop yourself. Once you start moving, you cannot stop, and so it's crazy. And you know what? I can smile and laugh about it now. I mean, it's nuts. I mean, if you woke up with me in the morning and saw me bouncing off all the walls and walking into things, and you'd be like, oh my god, you might feel sorry for me, which again, I'd get mad at you because I don't want anybody ever feeling sorry for me. But I think it's hilarious. Like I can actually sit back and laugh at it. It's like, man, I am a pinball in a pinball machine, and so it's quite funny. And I don't know why I find that funny. Some people get really freaked out about it, but to me, I just find it comical. It's funny. Um, the other thing with Parkinson's disease is that your dreams are like real, man. Like if you literally are living out your dream, and I mean living it out. Like it's like I can literally be semi-conscious, and if you woke up beside me, um, you could start having a conversation with me, and I would be having a conversation with you, and you would think I'm lucid and wide awake and having this great conversation, and literally I am out of it and I have no idea what's going on. And then you'd realize shortly after we were talking that I would be talking about some crazy thing else. Like we would be in a Western movie together. Like you might say like, hey, do you want a cup of coffee? And I would look at you and say, sure. Why don't you, stoke up the fire, and we'll send Ralph on the horses to go get some beans. And they're like, pardon me. And I can't decipher reality from a dream when I first wake up. So if I'm having a really good dream, I'm into it. You think it's like crazy. You think like I guess I think it's happening. It's unbelievable. I don't really know, and it's weird, right? Um, so anyway, there's my who it is with Parkinson's disease and what I do. And but the one thing I would say this is that people, again, when people think of Parkinson's, they think two things: either Michael J. Fox or elderly people, older people. And I know so some of you, I might be elder and I got the gray hair flying, and I feel really old some days, but at 40 is not old, wasn't old or isn't old, and 50 still, I guess, not old. I feel old, but a lot of people tell me I'm not old yet, but um, it's definitely not an old person's disease, and it's not definitely just a Michael J. Fox disease. But one thing is, so then when you think about that, you think it's a shaking. It really is, that's what people think about. But there's so many other things that go along with it, that the unseen things that are hard to deal with, right? So, the memory recall, like and forgetting words, halfway through a sentence, like I literally can be speaking, and I'm good right now. I'm fully medicated. I'm feeling good, but I could literally be having a conversation, and right in the middle of the conversation, I will forget a word. I can't even recall it, and it'd be a silly word like coffee, for example. Like, hey, do you want to go out and have a um, uh, and I can't grab the word. My brain will not let me say the word. I don't even know what it is. I can see a cup of coffee in my head, but I can't remember what it's called. And I've been saying coffee for a long time, and it just disappears. So can imagine that. Imagine being at work or being on a date or being with your spouse or being with your kids or whatever it might be, and these little simple words just totally escape you. It's frightening. It's scary. It's as heck. And or that's one thing that and then if people don't know you have Parkinson's or you just met somebody or you're doing something. Here's an example. And to this day, I think it was crazy. But anyway, I went in for had to go in for an MRI lately or last year. I think I went in for MRI, and they asked me if, when I the pre-screening or whatever. When I'm sitting there, they go, "Hey, so are you on any medication?" And I'm like, "Huh, am I on medication?" Yes. And they're like, and again, I told you, levodopa is one of the pills that people take for Parkinson's that I take that everybody takes for Parkinson's. I know that word like crazy, levodopa. I've been saying it now for 14 years. And they go, well, what medication you're on? And I'm on a bunch of medication, but let's just start with that one. I go, and I looked at the nurse like, and she was like, "You don't know what medication you have, and you take?" And I'm like, and I could not think of levodopa. I'm like, what in the hell? So anyway, she goes, "Okay, that's okay. Just give me your doctor's name." So I've been seeing the same neurologist for 10 years. I know what his name is. I know who he is. I can see him. It's not a big deal. I talk to him all the time. Could not recall his name. Now this nurse is looking at me like I must be slow. I think that's a PC word to say nowadays. I used to say a different word, and it's a bad word now, apparently. But they think you're slow. They think there's something cognitively wrong with you. And is there something wrong with you or me? Or yeah, there is, but they can't see it. So then they just assume that there's something wrong, or that I'm drinking. That's another common thing. It's like, you start kind of moving around, like I'm moving around like this, and be out having a beer with somebody or something, and they're like, "Oh my god, that guy must be drunk," because he's starting to move and he's starting to, his like talk, and he's slurring his words. Um, and I'm not, man. That's just who I am, and that's just what happens to me. What happens to somebody who does have Parkinson's? So it's a conception. It's a misunderstanding of on that person. So there's some weird things that happen. A funny thing that happens to me, I think it's funny. People don't think it's funny. You might not think it's funny, but I can freeze. So I'd be walking down the street or I'm walking in my home, and I all of a sudden will just freeze. And my foot will not move in front of the other one. And I'll stand there until somebody finally starts to move me, puts one foot, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's how you walk." And it's like, then I start to walk. Um, and it's weird. It happens all the time. So, for example, and people forget, right? Like if you when you're dealing with something, and that's why depression and anxiety, especially depression, is such a terrible, hard subject. It's why it's even harder because depression. If you're just standing smiling with somebody, they don't know you're depressed inside, and they don't know the things you're dealing with, even though you're dealing with something. And I kind of wish sometimes I didn't have a disease that wasn't so hidden. Like I almost wish that and this is bad. I mean, I shouldn't even say this out loud, but I almost wish sometimes that I did tremor or tremored a bit more than I did, because at least people would know right off the bat that there's something kind of off or missing. Because when I don't tremor, people don't realize there's something wrong. So I'll be walking. And matter of fact, so here's an example. My parents, who've been, supportive through this. And, obviously you have known that I had Parkinson's for 12 years. I was at their place not that long ago, and we were going to have a cup of coffee. And so I was going to walk out onto their deck with them. So I'm following my dad, and my mom's coming in a minute, I guess. And I'm following my dad, and there's a step when you come out of their porch onto the deck, and the steps not even a couple inches. It's not a big step, like a normal step you'd step on. This is like a couple of inches. And I was literally walking here, my coffee, following my dad, and all of a sudden, as I got to the step, right at the edge of this little 1-inch step, my feet stopped, and I just stood there, and I was frozen. And my dad turns around and goes, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Come on out." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm coming. I'm on my way." And I couldn't move. I couldn't move. I just couldn't move. Is that bizarre? Is that so weird? And I couldn't move. I couldn't move. And it takes somebody to come behind. I don't know, it was my mother. I can't remember. It was Carmen, my mom. I can't remember. Came and just gave me a little nudge and kind of a little push. And then my feet started moving again. And all of a sudden now I remembered how to walk. So imagine walking through your home, or walking at work, or walking to the mall, or playing a sport, and right in the middle of you walking through at work or in the mall or with your kids or whatever you're doing, your brain forgets how to walk and you stop and you cannot move and you're stuck. I call it frozen. People call it stuck. I call it frozen. And I'm just stuck and I can't move. I can't move my feet. And my brain is, and my head is telling my feet to move. Like my mind, I'm like, come on, walk, Bryce. Come on, man, let's go. What are you doing? Walk, walk, walk. And I can't move. And that can get really frustrating sometimes. And it can get very, very, very frustrating. But anyway, again, I don't say this to again for sympathy or pity for me or anything to that degree. I just mean that um, whatever you're going through right now, whatever you're happening in your life, whatever is going on with you, um, you need to kind of go through it. You need to do it, and you need to be excited, and you start living with joy, and you start living with yourself, and you start living your life and doing your life and moving forward. And I say this to say is if I can do this, like, and if I can be able to be frozen in place and not move, I can, get out of bed and pinball my way through my house with bruises all over my shoulders to just to wake up. If I forget words in the middle of a sentence, and yet still I'm happy and still, want to live my best life, and I still want to succeed and still want to be joyful and happy and go for things, then you can too. You can too. Um, I was going to go on a little bit longer and keep talking, but I realize now as I'm starting to, again, part of the Parkinson's, I'm starting to kind of slur my words a little bit, and I'm having a bit of trouble speaking it out. So I'm going to end this right away and soon, but I want to thank you so much. If you were on here, if you joined me today, what a pleasure and a thrill. And I'm so thankful for, across all the social medias to have 100,000 plus followers on social media is amazing. I'm not a social media king, nor did I ever want to be, but I love it. I love that people, had followed and wanted to kind of share my journey, and I'm hoping I can encourage them as we go along. And thank you for the likes. I really appreciate that. And I just want to help people. I want to inspire people. I want to encourage people. And if that's you, I want to inspire you and encourage you. Thank you for following. If you're not following, follow. Let's, get on. And I want to apologize. I have been away from from TikTok and Instagram and YouTube for about 6 months or 7 months, 8 months now. But I had to deal with some things. I had to get myself good, and I had to, again, so once the speech, there goes my slurring, had some speech therapy and had to do some things to get myself in the right order. And, was coming through a failed marriage and going through a divorce and the whole 9 yards. So it just took me a bit. I had to take some time for myself, but I am good. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling happy. I'm excited. I'm excited for this year. I'm excited for you. And, stay tuned. I got 2 podcasts that'll be launching on Spotify and Apple very, very soon. And that's going to go along obviously with some good stuff coming out on YouTube and Instagram, TikTok, you name it. So join me for that journey. If you've been following me for some time now, stay with me. Thank you for staying with me. Actually, I appreciate you. I love you all. And I'll see you soon. Thanks for joining. Now, if I can figure out, see, now I'm old. I gotta turn my glasses on. Know how to shut this off. Have a great day. We'll see you later. I got lost in space.